Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. And I'm joined today by a very special guest. So my guest today, 0rthodox, also makes Dragalia Lost videos here on YouTube. He is the host of the Holiday Hotspot podcast series. And welcome, 0rthodox. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hey Foundry, thanks for having me. As you guys have heard, my name's 0rthodox. Glad to be here. Honestly, I'm very excited for the 2.5 anniversary. And as mentioned, I'm a fellow YouTuber, host of the podcast, and all around just enjoying Dragalia every single day.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you back on the channel. The last time we recorded something together on my channel was actually close to the second anniversary. We talked about the Dream Summon and which adventures you might want to go for back during the 2-year anniversary. And it's crazy to think that half a year has gone by. I kind of can't believe we're at this point now. The topic for today is the 2.5-year anniversary, and we're specifically going to focus on some predictions for the upcoming Dragalia Digest, which is coming out this Wednesday. And so we should know more about this shortly, but obviously with the anniversary coming up, the Digest, got to go into the predictions. That's just part of the fun. It's almost like a Nintendo Direct. It is the marquee event for Dragalia Lost every 2 or 3 times every year. So very, very excited about it. And I want to start us off before we go into our predictions for this year and what's going to happen in just a couple days. I'm just going to recap for us really quickly for some context, especially for players who are newer to the game, what we found out last year on the 1.5-year anniversary. So just to run through this really quick, last year we got the reveal of Gala Alex. We found out about a login bonus, which included Mini Zodi. We got daily free tenfolds for a total of 60 free summons just from that. 2 Gala Platinum showcases, limited time packs for sale. We got something called the Champions Road Endeavors, which included 5,000 Wormite and other rewards. A social reward reset, which included 2,500 Wormites. Triple drops and double stamina recovery and a lot of common quests. The Scars of the Syndicate raid event, which featured Aldrin and reran earlier this year. Chain co-abilities were revealed, so that was a pretty big one. And in co-op, the co-abilities were reworked to apply basically based on your backline instead of other players' characters. The event compendium was revealed, the Fafnir medal system was introduced, some new event types were teased like defensive battles, shared skills were teased, the Encyclopedia was teased, and of course we'll talk more about that later in this video. Ciella and the twins were revealed as far as Agito bosses. There were some quality of life updates revealed, like being able to retry quests, reduce device strain, and also we got previews of the main campaign, a teaser that Fire Emblem 1 would rerun with some mana spirals, and finally we got a teaser that in late April we would get a Fire Emblem Part 2, or a second collab event basically, that ended up being Kindred Ties. So quite a lot happened last year actually.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot, and that makes us really excited for what they're going to announce on the live Dragalia Digest coming soon on the 24th.
Absolutely. So as far as what we can expect this year, we're going to start off with some things that we know are going to happen for sure, and then we're going to talk about some things that we're pretty sure of that are really likely to happen, and finally we're going to move into some of the true unknowns where we can speculate on whether or not they might happen, but we just don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. And with this being a 12-hour maintenance, there is a certain degree of mystery here, because the last time we had such a long maintenance was actually right before the second anniversary and the big 2.0 update. So who knows? There's probably going to be some stuff that nobody can predict at this point. But let's start off with stuff we know. And one of the things that just happened that I'm going to include here as part of the anniversary celebration is we got the second half of Chapter 18. So have you checked that out already, 0rthodox?
I did, actually. I was able to clear through this morning. Very happy with the direction that it was taking. Obviously, we did see the teaser about 6 months back when they did the little roadmap for, I think up to chapter 21? I think they teased all the way out from the 2-year anniversary digest. Not entirely a big surprise for our turning point in the story. But overall, as soon as one question was answered, we were presented 3 more. So such is the life of waiting for the next chapter.
Yeah, I know. I think the most exciting thing for me is to see some of the parties finally converge and get the aftermath of that. And I suppose, to jump into this, we know that the anniversary event that's coming for the 2.5-year anniversary, we've heard from Director Okada that it is going to be story related. So do you think it's going to build off the main campaign, or do you think it's going to be one of these other plot lines that are more and more relevant, like maybe the Archangel's plot line or something totally different? What are you thinking on that?
Oh, definitely. So for this one in particular, if we look at the past anniversary events, we had one with Audric, which was, Yuden's father, giving a lost future, right, where the world went to ruin. And then if you go to, the next anniversary, which we had for 2-year anniversary, we had the backstory with Ilya and Morseati, and it also gave us a look into kind of what was happening with Sethia. Now I would feel most inclined, since Nedric is such a center point or focal point in the story, for us to get some backstory on him. Maybe, kind of going into a little bit of spoilers for the end of chapter 18, but maybe they elaborate on this failed pact that he was supposed to have with Bahamut, and maybe what happened and why he's trying to change that fate.
Yes, I really like that. So I would love to see that. That is really directly connected to what's happening in the story, and he's still a very mysterious character, all things considered. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that would be a great thing to bring out at this time and really build off the momentum of the story and the main campaign. Some of the things that I was thinking about that could be possibilities are maybe we find out more about Alberius and go to that War of Binding, since there's a little bit of shroud of mystery around that as well, I feel, and that time period in Dragalia Lost. Another thing that's come up with the Archangel events is something called the Empyrean War, which was a war between demons and angels, and in Dragalia terms, angels are dragons, basically. Maybe we could explore some of that if they want to focus more on the church stuff and the new Sinister Dominion bosses. So I feel like there are a lot of good options here, and maybe they even do something more related to like the Fairy Kingdom and not, or perhaps we find out what's going on with Ilya and Mordecai as well. So yeah, I'm very excited. Like last year we had Scars of the Syndicate coming off the 1.5-year anniversary, and it wasn't really related to the overarching story of Dragalia. We found out about an organization called the Syndicate, which was a pretty cool teaser just to know about this in terms of the game's lore. But this year, the fact that they explicitly called it out as kind of another big event, I'm really excited. And I do think it's probably going to be a raid event, I would have to say, just because those are usually a little bit flashier and more grandiose.
Yeah, it definitely could have that same element or flair, kind of like how Morseati had in phases. Or they may even be gearing it up for, our third raid in the compendium. With that very special playable character as, even Morseati, actually the playable version, Mordecai, is an incredible unit, and so is Audric as well. So if it does end up being that raid style, then we'll have a pretty cool, story-connected character that would come for free with a pretty good skill set.
Yeah, trying to clear stuff with welfare characters has become a lot easier thanks to Audric and Mordecai being permanently available. They're both really good. And that's a great point, because all of the different events that I described, like if it's focused on North Grastia and the church, if it's focused on the second War of Binding rather, with Alberius, and if it's focused on Nedric's backstory, like none of those are events where I could really anticipate who the free character's necessarily going to be. And so it might be a totally new character we don't know. Perhaps it's somebody that we've met before in a different form of some kind. But yeah, I'm excited about the story direction. I'm excited about the event. Not sure just yet what it's going to be, but that's one thing we know is going to happen. We're just not exactly sure what it's going to look like. And similarly, something else that we know is going to happen. We know some boss fights are coming out, some harder difficulty boss fights. So later this week, Legend Ciella is going to release. And then sometime in April, we should be getting co-op for Master Lilith. So how are you feeling on these? Have you checked out Lilith's Encroaching Shadow so far? far. Maybe we should start with that one.
Lilith, in the way that she was designed, I very much enjoy the mechanics of the fight. The only thing that's interesting, maybe more so just the growing pains of adding a new upgradable mode, is I'm actually done farming Lilith. I've actually completed 4 copies of the new mask with the Sword Psalm affinity, or passive. And then all of the other prints, I have 1 Max Unbound copy at the moment. And then I actually went out and completed all of the 6th and 7th slots. It's interesting, the era of autoing, what it has opened up in terms of how hard you can power farm. But yeah, through creating an auto composition, I was able to go through and just blow out all the worm prints because I was really excited to use them. And then I got to an interesting dilemma where because the feature and the boss is so new, we don't have anything to use them on just yet. I guess we'll just have to wait to see, because it's one of those cases where the feature of having more worm print slots will get more and more exciting as time goes on. You know, the fight itself, I'm very pleased with overall. And then the introduction of the additional worm print slots, I'm very happy with as well. I think my only position is that I'm happy with it, and I'm eagerly awaiting more content to play around with the worm prints and find some more fun combinations.
Well, it's funny you mention about the value of the worm prints, because that's how I feel about Lilith with respect to adventurers. And I think one of the more polarizing elements of the fight has definitely been the Curse of Nihility. So I'm awaiting to see, what that looks like on the master difficulty. Can you basically not get any buffs at all? Because right now in expert, if you shapeshift, it's actually pretty reliable and pretty easy to get around Curse of Nihility at times. And going into phase 2 on experts, you can dragon tank the Nihility debuff, and then you get to benefit from buffs thereafter, at least until it gets applied again. And on master, I was messing around in solo, and when she switches to water, there's no time to even become a dragon before a Curse Shackles happens and you get Curse of Nihility. So I've definitely seen a lot of people unhappy that like some of their favorite characters got wrecked by Curse of Nihility. At the same time, I'm kind of glad because it gives us a reason to actually want a deeper roster. And surprisingly, some of the characters that have worked well, although yes, there are some of the newest characters like Rosarda, it's also characters like Juliet and Hildegard that haven't seen use in a long time. I'm glad to see those characters get some love again. I'm kind of with you though. I finished my farm. Basically, I've got the Sword Psalm prints, Max Unbound 4 copies, and I'm just working through the other ones. So I hope that Master adds a reason to sort of keep playing outside of one clear. I've really been looking for that co-op fix recently. Like Legend Volk was the last fight where I really played a lot of co-op on that because the mechanics were just very exciting for me and it was really fun to do. And so we'll see what Master Lilith has for us. That should be in early April, I think. And as for Legend Ciella, this is another one where my main hope is that co-op feels really fun, because I think that that's been a problem with every difficulty of Ciella. Expert was fun for a while back in the like Tobias and Hawk meta. Like it felt pretty fun to clear in like 2.5, 3 minutes or whatever. Somebody uses a Freya to heal, maybe a Hawk dies because for some reason that always happens. But then Master released and Master Ciella, and by that point Expert, the auto comps were just so good for that it didn't really have a long lifespan as a co-op battle. So whatever Legend Ciella is like, I'm hoping that it feels fun to play in co-op. Right now with Kayan, that's the Legend fight I'm working on, and it's basically just like I'll do it once a week and I'll do it in solo because that's easier for me than to find people and get it done in co-op. Where are you standing on Legend Ciella? Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I definitely am. Ciella as a boss fight definitely has a special place in my heart. So that was my first video that I did, was the guide Expert Ciella when the fight came out. So, it's kind of like getting my feet wet on YouTube, getting more serious with the game. And, I originally was one of the people running base Cleo with Popstar. You know, and doing that for fun. And the fight was, like you mentioned, you know, Expert was a lot of fun. I remember spending a lot of time, you know, learning all the mechanics, putting the clips together and getting a guide up. And then Master came out and I autoed it in the first 10 minutes of reset. And I was happy that I did it, but then at the same time I was like, oh no, this is just the way to do it then. Like, because then I started seeing, you know, people were like, oh, co-op is too long. You know, this is when they started changing how much HP the boss has between solo and co-op. And I was like, oh no, like, you know, is co-op like going to be viable for farming in Master, or am I just better off doing it in solo now that, you know, there's viable auto compositions? Yeah, I mean, the current trend of the last 2 Legend fights have been very exciting. They definitely add that element of a difficult co-op fight that I certainly enjoy. So I have high hopes. You know, I think her saving grace is going to be, you know, the new mechanic feature that they like to add in Legend. We saw previously with Volk having, introducing Berserk for the first time, seeing that carry over to Cayenne, and then that'll most likely carry over to Ciella. That should help add, you know, some playability. Plus, we have a pretty great wind roster. So, I see Templar Hope will probably continue to be a good piece because his overdrive break should be pretty good as a sword. You know, we also have, you know, the persona units to use like Mona, which should be pretty fun. And, you know, for those that were complaining, or I wouldn't say necessarily complaining, but maybe disappointed because the double buff meta is very fun and it's not quite viable in Lilith, it probably will still be very much viable in Legend Ciella. So it'll be a nice kind of remembrance of the double buff meta returning for maybe one last hurrah.
Right, that's one of the nice things about having the Sinister Dominion still release alongside some of these Legend Agito fights, is that it is a different cast of characters. And one of the things I'm not sure of yet is we know Curse of Nihility will be a thing in future Sinister Dominion boss fights, but we don't know the frequency or the duration. So maybe that'll change, maybe not. It could just end up being exactly like Lilith, where buffs are not as effective, but that is something that remains to be seen, that I'm kind of curious to see how they'll execute on. And as far as Ciella, for me, I'm really hopeful that maybe they just tone down the tankiness a little bit. I think what happened with Master Co-op was a combination of really punishing mechanics, like the bolts from above in co-op. For whatever reason, that just really trips people up almost immediately in the fight. And then she's also really tanky, buffs up her own defense, and so it feels like you have to be on your game for a very long match. And I'm already imagining rebounding arrows or bolts and above happening in the Berserk phase and thinking to myself like, oh man, you know, this could be potentially brutal in co-op. So I do hope that they kind of give her a little bit of a mechanical refresh. I think that we saw that with Cayenne with the sun and moon motif and his dualism moves that he did that kind of made it a little bit more novel and interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. That's happening this week. And the other thing we know is happening, but right now we don't know really anything about it, is we know there's going to be some type of new version update coming for the 2.5 year anniversary. So I think that pretty much covers everything that we know for sure is going to be taking place. And of course, there's some stuff that we can be pretty sure of as well, just based on last year and based on every anniversary milestone. So to jump into a little bit of that, you know, we're probably going to get lots of free stuff. We're probably going to get some paid packs. I'm definitely counting on some of those free summons because Where Might resources are still looking really low right now for me. We probably are going to get half cost and double or triple drops. Hopefully for endgame quests again, like we got this New Year's. I'm really looking forward to some potential Agito or even High Dragon half-cost farming. That could be a really nice way to catch up for newer players as well. And we know that there's a level cap increase happening, so that was announced for late March. Who knows if it'll happen now after all, but that has been announced. That's one thing we can be pretty sure of. Not sure if it'll happen now or not. And then there are a couple things that I want your help speculating on that we can be pretty sure of at this point, but we don't know exactly what they're going to look like. So one of them is a new mini dragon, and the candidates are basically mini Mercury or mini Jupiter. So what are you thinking on this one, 0rthodox?
Yes. So Dragalia, they love teasing what's to come in the artwork. And, starting with, I think it was the half anniversary with Mini Zodi. We got Audric and Mini Zodi. Leading into the second anniversary, we got Mini Hildy and Yuden. And moments ago, we got Emil and Mini Mercury. We were talking back and forth, Mini Mercy, Mini Curie. Either which way, my money is right there. It's going to be her. And I'm very happy about that because she looks very cute. And I'm very excited to add her to the party of our main mini dragons.
I know, she looks so adorable. I was hoping it was her, I'm not gonna lie. I love Jupiter as well, but I wanted Mini Mercury, and it seems like it's gonna be her. She's the one that was teased. It's funny, there's all these side media to Dragalia, like the Dragalia minis over on Twitter that you wouldn't necessarily know about just playing the game, but they have a lot of really cool artwork and cute artwork in there, which also includes a series where Jupiter basically comes up with the human form of the various different great worms. Have you seen some of these?
They are so well detailed. Every time I see them, I think the most recent one with that was Human Midgar.
Yeah.
And he looked so dapper. I was like, I would pull for him. Like, Cygames, please. Like, and it has to be, down the line. Maybe the goal is, it could just be for fun, right? For lore building and for fun. Or it could be, Cygames testing the water to see if the fans want more human forms of the main cast than just Mim.
I'm here for it. Sign me up, Cygames. Like, if that's our next series of Gala adventures, human forms of the Great Worms, and if they actually play a bigger role in the story too as a result, that would be a win-win for me. And I'm surprised they brought Mini Mercury, in part because if you saw Mini Mercury's reveal, she was a quick fan favorite when she had her human form. So I figured they might want to save such a popular character for the third anniversary, but looks like it's going to be Jupiter for the third anniversary based on what we're seeing now, and probably Mercury this time around. So the other thing that we're pretty sure of, everybody's been talking about it for a minute now, but we want to get into some of the specifics on, is it's got to be Gala Knot for the Gala, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think even more so, it's going to be like, what form do we get her, as opposed to if we get her, right? The big teaser being when they showed at the second anniversary her saying, I want to fight. We knew right away she's probably geared up for the 2.5 anniversary gala. Here we are, a couple days away, and boom, she gets her big debut, she gets a big fight, she gets her big form, right? Everything got bigger, basically. And yeah, I mean, her form change, I don't think was too big of a surprise for me when I saw it in the story. However, and this is also kind of spoiler territory for the chapter, but when she did a second form change, I was like, wait a minute. I thought that was it. They still managed to surprise me, in the story, because, I saw the dagger, and, they teased that same dagger in the Persona collab that she was holding in her, like, half form or her intermediate form. Yeah, overall, very cool. So, I know there's been speculation, there's been comments back and forth on Discord and on Reddit, and they've been mentioning, we would get her as that intermediate form, and then there was talk about, maybe that larger form is her Dragon Drive. Because it is true, we don't have a dedicated Dragon Drive Gala unit. So that's a very big possibility.
Yeah, that would be a really cool implementation for me. Personally, I like the intermediary form the most, because I think it's still got a lot of the cuteness of her as a fairy, and then the adult form is just like a little bit over the top for me, where they just took it to a whole nother level. As you said, everything got bigger, and I'm so excited. I think that realistically, she'll probably be a dagger, and then if she does Dragon Drive, maybe it's a sword, because when she transformed, it looked like a sword that she was wielding. But I want to give my fan theory / what my prediction would have been until I read this chapter, because I was really on the Gala not win Manicaster rapid fire style prediction for a while, because I thought we'd been getting all these rapid fire style Manicasters for our Galas, and with Not's Slumber Shot, that Toho event from the first April Fools of the game, well, I thought that that'd be a cool implementation. Like, even though she's maybe not wielding a Manicaster as a fairy, maybe she's sending out little energy orbs or something, and I thought that her transformation might be kind of like Rush, where Mega Man gets on Rush. I thought maybe she'd get on Midgard Stormer and just be like flying around. So that was my hope, but I think instead we're gonna get this second transformation Not, and I'm still here for it. I'm still very excited to see what her kit is like. You know, maybe one of her attacks will be called Slumber Shot as a throwback, or perhaps they'll include other little details that nod to castle stories and comics and things that she's appeared in. That would certainly be pretty sweet.
That's really, really cool. And honestly, it would have fit really well. I think all in all, though, we can definitely salvage the fact that she's most likely wind. That still holds a lot of weight due to the fact that it would just sell, on top of not being a fan favorite, it would sell well with Legend Ciella, you know, coming out around the same time. You know, something I was thinking about with the form change and, you know, how many times they referenced how big Not had gotten is that when she form changes from a dagger, which presumably is a normal-sized human size, right? Like, in that form, she's probably the same height as Yuden. If she got even larger and she took on a dragon, chances are that Dragon Drive form might be the same caliber of a character model as like Reborn Jean. And so it's very possible it could be like almost like a Tiki fighter in that way, where, you know, Tiki goes into her divine form and it's an actual dragon as a Dragon Drive, whereas instead you're just playing with a massive character model of Not, and maybe she just has like a insanely long, like two-handed greatsword or something. There's a lot of really cool possibilities that could come out of this.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Not's one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite, and I was almost about to say, you know, fighting words there, because you said something like Not being a fan favorite, and I was like, how dare you? She is a fan favorite. And I, of course, misinterpreted Not as N-O-T instead of N-O-T-T-E, thinking you were decrying Best Girl, but you weren't. So yeah, in addition to being good against Ciella, she is a fan favorite. And one thing I'll add is, with Rise of the Sinister Dominion, I've been very impressed with Tiki, because when she is in her Divine Dragon form, she doesn't get corrosion. And so that particular mechanic is, at least so far, unique to Lilith. Curse of Nihility is the one that's going to be across the fights, but I'm not sure, haven't really tested or looked into. I think it might also block Curse of Nihility being in the Divine Dragon form. If that's the case, having a form similar to that might also be really good for Gala Not. So all around, just a character I'm super excited for. Like, maybe she'll have the dagger standard attack damage co-ability that Laxi and Tiki have, or perhaps she'll have something totally new. Either way, it's a character that, like, regardless of her actual quality in battle, it's a character I would love to summon and want to have. So I'm really hoping I get lucky with some of the free tenfolds and I'm able to pull her.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I definitely think she'll be, either way they spin it, a really fun character. And as we kind of get deeper into maybe what the 12-hour maintenance might hold, you know, with the reveal of Gala Alex, that was also when, you know, a new mechanic arose. So it's very possible, right, with for Gala Alex specifically, it was the chain co-abilities. There could be something new that, you know, Gala Not will be bringing to the table that will be moving forward across maybe our whole roster.
Right, and I think that's a good segue for us to go into some of the bigger unknowns here, where I've just speculated as to things that might be happening. And one of the topics I wanted to discuss in this section is, you know, what is going on with that maintenance? 12-hour maintenance, the last time we got that, we had all of the character models in the game changed with the new art style of 2.0. We had the Battle Royale introduced. Like, are we getting some kind of major new mode or game overhaul? Because that is a really long mystery maintenance right now.
Yeah, 12 hours, as you mentioned previously, was done at the 2nd year anniversary. And that was, again, the whole roster, save a few characters, rest in peace, Kirsty and Odetta, got changed for the better. And so, maybe these 12 hours are to fix those 2 characters. That's my wish anyway.
The best take I saw was, I think somebody said, like, last time it took them 12 hours to give us ABR, Alberian Battle Royale, and this time they're going to take it away, which... Oh,
yeah. It's very possible that these 12-hour maintenances could be for Season 1, the actual final fleshed-out version. Speaking of... The mode went up in the 12-hour window. Who's to say that they don't expand matchmaking to be co-op related? Maybe they create a team mode where you can go in with one friend. Or you can go in with a party of 4, and it's 4 parties of 4, and it's a team battle.
I know, you speak to my heart, 0rthodox, but at the same time, I'm so sad about the Battle Royale because despite my efforts, like, nobody seems to like the mode, unfortunately. Like, there is a fan base for it, but it's one of the most negatively received changes, I feel like, with 2.0, to where most of the comments I read about it these days are just like, I'm so glad that you have to farm it less. I hate this mode. I don't like this mode. So that's why somebody suggested that they might just take it out. But I really like it. I still like the Battle Royale. But, maybe they'll have a new Royale skin or, as you said, version 1, maybe a map update to where last time they did a map update, we got the volcano area. So perhaps we'll get some kind of new area. But still, that maintenance feels like it feels too long to just be a small update. So the other thing I could see with that is like maybe a big UI overhaul and just changing how some of the menus look and feel. Perhaps, dare I say it, perhaps the Encyclopedia makes an appearance as part of the UI change. Is it alive? I don't know. But we actually heard about it last. I mean, we've heard about it basically to say that it was delayed, but when I was watching back the 1.5 year anniversary, at that time we heard about it and it sounded like it was almost ready to go. And they talked about how it would give bonuses for having a big collection, and really we haven't gotten a lot of good details on it in a long time. So I don't know if that's still a thing, but if it is, maybe that could be part of the maintenance.
Yeah, it's hard to say with the Encyclopedia as it stands. The one indication that it may have gotten fragmented is the weapon bonus system, because in its heart, the weapon bonus system is designed to reward you for maxing and building every weapon in the game. So that one small section of what was supposed to be the entire encyclopedia, including adventurers, dragons, weapons, worm prints, seems to be the only live component of the encyclopedia, which I'm very much inclined to say was the most important piece, as our old weapon system was pretty bad, at least in retrospect with how easy it is to navigate the new weapon UI and, just keep track of what you have. Otherwise, before it was, scrolling through a limited slot, 200 page, multiple copied weapons would drop. They'd fill up your inventory. This much more now is definitely a lot more clean. As far as the other components go, it's interesting that it's not live because, as we mentioned previously with Master Lilith, the Curse of Nihility being one of the first newer implementations to help broaden the roster, the Encyclopedia, I would feel, would do the same thing, because if the bonuses were good enough, say, have 5 built flame sword characters for X bonus, then that may incentivize people to pull on more banners or build more characters.
Right. And the adventurers is an interesting thing to think about with the Encyclopedia too. Like, I definitely agree with your take as far as the weapon bonuses. I think that really might have been a wrench in the Encyclopedia as it was originally intended, because even though it didn't bring the lore that some people were hoping for with the Encyclopedia, it really did reward collecting a variety of weapons, and essentially is what the original Encyclopedia was intended for, is rewarding a large collection. Nowadays, with stuff like the team change in Master Lilith, that's another reason to have more adventurers built up, because you need 2 full teams. You also have more element restrictions on hard difficulty fights, to where you can't bring off-element dragons, you can't bring off-element adventurers on some of these fights anymore. So for that reason, you have to actually build characters of the appropriate element. So maybe there are other ways they could do that through the Encyclopedia. Another thing I was thinking about is like all of the skins are sort of a way of collecting characters, in a way of like unlocking their skin in ABR. So maybe they track that. They might track Dragon and Worm Prince, but although Worm Prince didn't really get a reward for collecting a lot of them, they did get the affinity bonus system, which is another mechanical bonus, at least, for having a lot of prints with the same affinity. So it's not quite the same as actually wanting to fill out a book or a collection of having all the different worm prints, but it is a way that you get more stats and benefits. So I really don't know what the future's looking like for the Encyclopedia right about now.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the other things that they might be shy about talking about with the Encyclopedia is if they make the goal of collection in a gacha game as a whole too aggressive, it does come off as off-putting because it will be seen as very predatory. And, Cygames and Dragalia as a whole has been very generous, especially with the way that they handle celebrations with all the free tenfolds. And even the Wormite cuts and the ticket cuts have seen a lot of backlash. So I'm sure, between that and introducing ABR, they just want to be sure that they're not going down that route or doubling down on the, reach for your credit card route. So, it's definitely something to just be conscious of.
Yeah, originally I wasn't sure if, with an encyclopedia, if you go as far as to include adventures and dragons or not, because unlike worm prints and weapons, there's a much more real monetization component straight up there, and there's already some backlash, a significant amount, about things like Gala Thor and Lilith fights, so now might not be the best time to tell people, hey, by the way, if you want the best bonuses, you better make sure to summon every single adventure in the game. Good luck, have fun.
Right.
So yeah, I hope it strikes a good balance. Like, the thing it might not solve is, like, if it's just pure stats, you build some characters just to get the stat bonuses on your better characters. So some gachas I've seen, like Fire Emblem Heroes, another gacha I played, they would have arena bonuses every week where different characters would be featured, and if you brought those characters to the arena that week, they got extra stats and you earned extra points. It's kind of similar to what Dragalia does with the special raid characters getting a boost in their particular raid event, but maybe they could expand that a little bit out to other game modes, to where, this is Serena week. If you want to put away your Yuden and your Marth and your Naveed and want to play with Serena this week, she's getting extra stats in Legend Volk, and so it's going to make your life easier if you bring her. Like, I don't know that's really the best way for Dragalia in particular, but some way of incentivizing a variety of units I definitely think is a good idea.
It could even be something as simple as giving bonus player XP for using a certain character in an adventure, roster, outside of just using the prints. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different ways they could go about it. They could even make it, the raid bonuses for the event could also be tied to the banner characters, that are released, or some previous characters that show up in the story. I definitely still agree Battle Royale skins are cool, and that is unique to the game mode, but I will still always ask for skins for normal co-op or solo play, because we have, just in this example for the prince, he has a lot of fly outfits, and I would definitely pick up one of them, at least one of them. He's got a cool one for Halloween, he's got a great one for Christmas, his anniversary suits are pretty awesome, so all of that is great. There's a lot of cool stuff that could come about it.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool idea too. That would be another way of monetizing that's not as aggressive as, hey, make sure you get the latest and greatest Gala, and make sure that you're ready for the hard difficulty content going forward. Like, that's purely cosmetic, so I would love to see it. It hasn't happened yet, but it doesn't mean it's impossible, and they ventured into skins with the Alberian Battle Royale, so perhaps it actually could be a thing.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. The other thing too that, I'm just peeping in the notes that I've been itching to chat about too is we are getting close to April 1st, and, a very special someone, the adventure pupper himself, is supposedly making a return one way or another. And some mode that I've been kind of going back and forth with and talking about is if it's not a mechanic introduction, like a pet system, kind of like how Seimei summons a bird and then the bird attacks on his behalf, more like a pet that you equipped that maybe gives you a special side grade. Maybe not straight up damage, but maybe it's, they heal you every so often, or, they some kind of rally, or, or maybe it's just an aesthetic and there's just a bird flying with you, like in your little character model. Another thing that could be interesting that would tie into the adventuring spirit of the pupper is another type of, AFK mode. Maybe in this, again, could feed into the expanding of our roster, but what if I can send out Marty and Francesca and some of the other characters on an expedition to South Grastea, and they come back with various monster materials, and it takes maybe 12 hours for them to do it, and maybe there's special bonuses depending on the theme of the character that you send out to the various regions. Maybe the apostles can do foraging or an expedition, something church related, much faster, and then when I log back in, I can go collect those rewards matching whatever expedition they went on.
I love the idea of that. It's a great way to use more of the roster. I can imagine like the screen for this where it's got your countdown of how much time is left, and it's just like the little chibi models of the 4 characters you sent just like walking along with the pupper, maybe leading them on their little expedition. It reminds me a lot of Smash. In Xenoblade, you send blades on expeditions like that. So hopefully we get something like that. Like, I would love to see the pupper come back in any form. If it's a pet system for regular co-op or solo play, like all the better. That'd be also awesome. We have been told, as you said, exactly, in one form or another, and that's a quote, the pupper will return, according to Okada. So he said that in one of the Ask Okada interviews. So at some point, we are going to get Best Boy back in Dragalia Lost. It's just a matter of when. But yeah, the expedition system, the more I think about it, I think it could solve a lot of problems that are happening right now as far as collecting resources, because one of the other things I was going to mention is, when are we going to get like a master difficulty of the elemental ruins? I've also felt that crunch as far as the Nature's Blessing and some of those tier 3 orbs, the rainbow orbs. I just don't have enough of those to realistically level up my facilities anytime soon, and so maybe an expedition system could give some of those materials as well to give an incentive for more enfranchised players to also get to take advantage of that. It's been a while since we had any treasure trade or Fafnir metal exchange updates. Like, it might be about time we get tier 4 to tier 3 orb trading. That hasn't been a thing. Like, maybe throw in Agito trading or High Dragon material trading in there as well. Like, at this point, that content has been out for a while. It could just make people's lives easier. And you talked about the Halidom too. Like, for getting a player level cap increase, we've also heard in the past that eventually there will be more space in the Halidom. So who knows what that will fully entail? One thing we've heard about too is there may be another use for steel bricks, which currently are used for weapons. To me, it makes sense that bricks could be used to make buildings, maybe in the Halidom. So they could perhaps tie those together, or or maybe not, maybe just trade them up for Damascus ingots. The more I think about all these expansions, I do hope that there's good catch-up mechanics in place, because I think that's one of the weaknesses right now with Dragalia is, like, if you've been playing since day 1 or year 1, you probably are able to clear some of the new content and it's not too bad, but even the players who have been playing that long, if you're more of a casual fan, like, you may not have checked out Agito or High Dragon Trials, or Lilith. I know for a lot of players, they feel like all the characters they invested in the past can't really let them clear Lilith right now. And so I do hope that there is a consciousness around that. I think there is, but at the same time, Dragalia has been out for a while now, to where some of these like high level facilities with the Nature's Blessing, it's a lot. And now the player level cap going up past 200, which is already quite a grind to obtain. Yeah, it just feels like a lot at times.
There's definitely, an expectation to make sure that whatever bonuses or upgrades we get aren't too daunting for the new players. So, yeah. I think all in all, I mean, honestly, Foundry, I think the one thing that I would be just completely cheesed for in the Halidome expansion would be Eldwater. Like, just give me Eldwater. Like, give me some form of Eldwater, like a fountain, or let me trade my thousands of dragon fruit and whetstones and other materials that I have just completely stockpiled into the thousands or hundreds of thousands for Eldwater or other upgrade material.
All of these little quality of life updates are some of the more mundane things that can happen, but that make the experience better overall, I feel. Some other things that could be nice as far as quality of life, like maybe some more stuff with the draconic essences. Could we see another use for those finally? Could we see something like mana spirals for dragons? Or at the very least, mana spirals for adventures, because those have also been kind of MIA lately.
The mana spirals are interesting. Initially there were a lot of spirals that were created solely to improve the mods or add affliction punishers. And that was kind of the entirety of the spiral. And so when the 2.0 update happened, it's kind of like we got 100 spirals all at once. I'm totally okay with them slowing down spirals, because on the flip side of things, spirals cost more Champions Testaments. And then the other thing is, I'm okay with them taking their time on making more meaningful spirals.
I'm curious, where are you on dragons right now? Do you feel like dragons need any kind of overhaul or rework or refresh, or do you think dragons are good?
Draconic Essence definitely surprised me being farmable. Although as it stands, I do feel that there's not enough value in a lot of the dragon roster to merit using them. Like, biggest offender would be Agni, right? You have Mars and you have Agni in the same element for the same units, and there is just zero reason, even a 0 unbound Mars is better than a max unbound Agni, like just straight up. And so that component is, I understand it, right? Because it's a Gala dragon and it's very powerful and everybody wants to play with that on co-op, but maybe, there's some way, and of course this has been an ongoing discussion with like dragon spirals or other side grades or way to upgrade the characters. There definitely should be a refresh for the older dragons. Maybe be something farmable through either, another use for essence or Eldwater, or I guess I hesitate to say Eldwater because it's already getting pretty stretched. But, or maybe just a new material to farm for or to play for to power up those dragons. I think the whole idea of dragons being able to use skills more than once, or dragons being able to have like an equipable or upgradable additional passive might be pretty nice. I mean, as far as it stands, all of these new gen dragons have like 2 abilities, and all of our old dragons have 1 ability and then like a very simple skill. And in a lot of cases that's fine, because the majority of the adventurers are in dragon 20% of the time. Obviously improving dragon mods and making dragons become more of these titan behemoths and powerful figures from the version 2.0 balance update was great, but I think there needs to be a little bit more push for other choices other than our very ingrained flame meta, which is everyone and their mom uses Mars because of how amazing he is. And now we're seeing it with Light, where it's like everyone and their mom has to use Jean because of how versatile she is.
What I wonder with dragons is just that, is it if they're not broke, don't fix it situation, because I do think weapons and wyrmprints needed a lot more than dragons to kind of make them work. And right now, dragons are serving a monetization role, for better or for worse, where new dragons get released and it's a reason to summon, and especially when mechanics like nihility have an effect on older dragons, it's a way to get people to want to get some of these reborn dragons, which, makes you wonder if reborn Agni is just going to be super pushed or how they're going to differentiate him from Mars. But I think one of the simplest things they could do is maybe just, which we saw with weapons, maybe just go up to 8 unbinds on some dragons, and it does things like raise the level cap to 100 and maybe gives them like a second skill or a higher level upgrade on their one skill that they already have. You could use essences for those unbinds, or maybe doing that also costs something like Nature's Blessings, because that material really, outside of those later Halidom facility levels within Halidom for altars and dojos, like doesn't really have a purpose. I think there's a lot they could do, but I wonder if sort of counterintuitively, if like it's the system's sort of working as intended, where dragons really are one of the bigger gotcha elements to the game that incentivizes pulling for power. And I don't know, I would love to see something done with dragons just to give them a little refresh, like maybe have a use for all that dragon fruit that's sitting around at this point. That would be great. But yeah, I was very curious to get your thoughts on that, and I like a lot of the ideas you shared. So that's one thing I would be happy to see, but right now I kind of feel like things might just get left how they are.
Yeah, I think the closing thought I would have on it that makes sense in terms of a development standpoint would be investing in an older dragon, like how we invest in an older character, and when that dragon or character is maxed out, the share skill becomes available. So I guess in that vein, it would be like, you can't really stop Mars from being amazing, or whatever meta dragon there is, because there will always be something that's the best. But maybe having a max unbound, max leveled Cerberus allows you to bring her skill on your Mars as a second dragon skill.
That would be interesting. Also, another interesting idea. But I guess to wrap up here, we're getting toward the end. There's some things I just want to mention that I think we could see. A main campaign teaser. We talked a little bit about the direction of the story, so not going to get into that too much, but probably a little bit of a teaser about the next several months of the main campaign. I'm just going to mention these things because we've said them in every predictions video I've done on the channel, but, a spin-off, a Switch port, and I'll just throw it out into the world and maybe it'll finally come to pass. But the last topic I really want us to dive into is the collab. And last year, we found out about the Fire Emblem Kindred Ties event happening and a rerun of the first Fire Emblem event. So what are you thinking this year as far as collabs go? Do you think we're going to get a collab announced? Are we going to get Fire Emblem again? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh. So, Fire Emblem 3 would probably be like the easy cop-out answer. It seems likely as all of the collabs seem to end with the "we'll see you again," and seemingly so, Fire Emblem has been the only collab so far to tie into the main story. At least with Heroes 2, where Chrom was like trying to prevent Yuden from, going down the wrong path, which then in the later chapters we find out he goes down the wrong path. So it wasn't very successful. But yeah, I could definitely see Fae 3. I think of all the possibilities, it would be the most obvious and easy choice, as Fire Emblem has a very big following, not only just on the mobile game, but, in general. As far as it would go for, a game like Monster Hunter, we do have Monster Hunter Rise, so that in and of itself would be another way to advertise the game. And kind of extending on that, one of the new features in the game involves a dog. So, does Adventure
It's all
Pupper
coming together?
I mean, think about it. Does Adventure Pupper come back in one form or another as in the Monster Hunter collab?
Oh my god.
because maybe he's donning a new gear and it's the little war dog outfit that they have, for the Pupper. These are all things that could be possible. Obviously, it's far out there. This is a prediction, right? But it's possible. And then, obviously that would mean possibility for Monster Hunter Spirals, which I would love because their kits are pretty awesome. Between the three of them, do they need a Spiral? Would I like to see a Spiral? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're cool characters. And then that also just opens up the opportunity for other characters to get more outfits. And we got teased in the Worm Prince, like a lot of really cool characters like Gerota. Mim got an outfit. I think Pia had an outfit too with the feline hospitality worm print. And I guess that's the other thing too, right? We have an amazing crit damage double buff print locked behind a limited collab with no mention of it returning. So I guess all of the evidence with a new game and the Pupper maybe, that's just my for fun thing, but he's still there. And the worm print, who else would be interesting? I guess in its entirety, we don't really have too many other Nintendo mobile games to collaborate off of. So from there, it would have to be Cygames IPs, which I know we had mentioned probably an inevitable Grand Blue collaboration, as we did have a Princess Connect collab, which was Cygames related.
I'm kind of with you on the collabs. Like, I think you covered a lot of the possibilities I'm thinking as well. And if I have to be honest, I'm more excited about the possibility of Monster Hunter 1 coming back with a Monster Hunter 2 than I am for Fire Emblem 3. And I know Anna is a beloved character, and she is my favorite of the Asker trio. She's one of my favorite characters in the Fire Emblem franchise. But I do think that, in a sense, she is not on the same level as a mascot character of Alphonse and Sharina. And so they could leave the Fire Emblem collabs where they are and not have a part 3 to them at all, and I would still feel they're pretty complete. If they do a Fire Emblem collab, I could see characters coming in like Lucina, just because she's so connected in that lineage to Marth and Chrom that I feel like it would make sense, especially with any kind of time travel shenanigans or story. Maybe they could do adult Tiki also from Awakening. That would be kind of a fun little mix-up with maybe her interacting with child Tiki, again, crossing the timelines. So yeah, there's definitely potential. There's original characters in Fae that they could bring in that have appeared now with the mechs that they have going on, or if they went with some of the earlier original characters, they could go with Air, for example. So there's possibilities, but the thing I felt last year was I love Fire Emblem 2, but April just kind of became too much defensive battles. And the amount of grind was so high that if there's 3 Fire Emblem events running in 1 month, I don't know if I can handle that. So in that sense, I thought it might be too late for Monster Hunter because Rise is already coming out, and it seems like they're going to do the story-related raid event for the anniversary first. But now that I think about it and you kind of mention it, maybe it's not too late. Announce it in the digest and say that it's on the horizon for April, they're bringing back the old Monster Hunter characters and then they're going to do a new event of some kind. It may not actually be too late and it would still be pretty sweet. And I think Monster Hunter's Persona's up there as well. But when I think about all the collabs that we've had, outside of Fire Emblem, Monster Hunter is probably the best one in my opinion. As far as the level of detail, all the different stickers, all of the mechanics and the character designs and the worm prints, everything felt very rich for that collab. I would love to see it come back, good Rainbow Orb farm. So personally, I'd probably be a little bit more excited about that one, even though I'm way more of a Fire Emblem fan than a Monster Hunter fan myself. Or as you mentioned, we just got Bahamut name dropped. We could easily get some other Cygames crossovers, like the Grand Blue Fantasy crossover. That is another huge vein to tap into. When it comes to Cygames' other properties, it feels like it's totally anything could be game potentially for a collab. So that could also be super exciting. I know there are a lot of fans of Dragalia who have come to it from other Cygames franchises as well. And at the end of the day, any type of collab with Dragalia is a really great time to bring in new players and usually builds up a lot of excitement in the player base as well. So whatever the case may be, like, I do hope we get a collab announced or teased for April. Even if it's more Fire Emblem, I'm still going to be happy. We'll see, but 0rthodox, any final predictions or last thoughts?
Yeah, as many tie-ins for the Pupper as possible. We got the walkies in the Halidome. We got the Expedition game mode, also starring the Pupper. And we got the War Dog Pupper edition. I think that would do it for me. And then, of course, if we're going to go overboard, it would be a mini adventure Pupper as a playable dragon. So I could permanently pet him in the roost. And I think that covers it for my final predictions.
All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for our predictions today. So, 0rthodox, I want to thank you for joining me. And could you let everyone know where they can find you and your videos?
Yes, Foundry, thanks for having me again. It's always been a pleasure to have the conversations about Dragalia Lost. As for finding my content, if you guys would like, I'm, of course, on YouTube. It's 0rthodox with the 0. As well, I'm on Twitter. It's at @orthodox_Joe. And if you guys want to catch the latest on the podcast, of course, I do mirror upload it to YouTube, but it is also on Spotify as well. And you can just search Halidome Hotspot. It'll come right up.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and I definitely recommend people check out your channel for even more Dragalia Lost goodness. The podcast series especially is awesome. You've gotten some amazing Dragalia Lost voice actors on there, which is super cool, and a lot of other unique guests as well. And well, that is really going to do it for today, everyone. Thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye, 0rthodox.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Foundry. Take care.